I met Rakib at a conference in Sydney, the World Parks Congress. There's something like 10,000 people there. And I'm standing in a queue to get lunch and I'm listening to someone behind me talking about resilience assessment. And I was eavesdropping on the conversation and getting more and more curious. And in the end, I had to stop and introduce myself. And we started talking, and Rakib had been involved in resilience assessment. He was one of the few people that I'd met on the planet that had done this amount of work. And we sat down and we talked for a few hours, and we've stayed in contact ever since.
Hello, I'm Rakib Ulamin. I'm working as a country representative of IUCN Bangladesh country office. And I'm going to talk about my experience, my own personal journey, how I have come across resilience and I have used it in different field projects and where I'm moving towards. To begin with, I need to go back in 2012 when I was based in Bangkok. I was working in an initiative called MFF, or Mangrove for the Future. The MFF has a very interesting inception and transformation. It started as a tsunami response program in 2006. After 2 years, it slowly transformed into a coastal governance, a coastal ecosystem management project. And one of the mechanisms of MFF implementation, these grants were to support or facilitate local NGOs, to support local communities in improving their livelihood, bringing gender perspective in, and empowering them, and eventually help them to take decisions about their coastal ecosystem management. So social livelihood, gender, all those social aspects of people's well-being, and at the same time, ecosystem well-being and ecosystem management. In total, we can say an ecosystem, through an ecosystem approach, we used to implement MFF programs and projects. But in 2012, we realized that we need to become more strategic in terms of our investment, so that our investment is correct, is based on local people's need, it supports a local policy, it also supports a national policy, and in fact, we get a better result to fit in our objective, the higher level objective of MFF. At that time, we were looking for an alternative to what we have been doing. And we came across the resilience concept. At the same time, we also found the Stockholm Resilience Center's Resilience Handbook. So we contacted a Global Climate Adaptation Partnership, or GCAP, which was based in as an Oxford-based organization led by Dr. Tom Downing. We also contacted Professor Mo Hamza and Vikram Mathur, all from Global Climate Adaptation Partnership. So they helped us to understand this very complex theory, and they helped us to unpack that resilience concept. And we learned it through series of dialogues and workshops in Bangkok and elsewhere. But challenge remain how we take this learning, how we take this theory into something practical, applicable at the field level. So we were thinking of piloting of our process, how we want to implement, and we choose Bangladesh. Me as a Bangladeshi, it was a natural choice for me to come and talk with my colleagues and devise a plan together with our regional colleagues and regional partners and local partners. So we developed a methodology, what we call resilience analysis protocol. So it's a very participatory tool, and by which we engage in dialogues with the local community, local leaders, local youth, local women, and try to analyze what is the drivers and the pressure, what is happening now, and kind of recreate a journey, how the present has happened. It happened because of the incidents in the past, the policy decisions, the mega events, the social system, how the past events has shaped the present. And if we reconstruct the present based on the past events and past incidences, past policy measures, we then try to project what would be likelihood, what's the plausible future, what we call scenario analysis. That was, I think, the most significant addition of bringing in this resilience concept, and is to try to understand the uncertainties you have in future and try to understand what are the plausible pathways of future and what are the desire, or I would say shared vision of future. That sparked people's imagination, that sparked people participation, that sparked people enthusiasm. So it was easy for us to design projects together with the community and intervene so that we have a change outcome or a desired outcome in the short term and in the long term as well. Just to give you an example, we started our work in Shamnagar in Bangladesh. Shamnagar itself is something I must say. It's a small area, it's a small coastal area in southern part of Bangladesh, very near to the Sundarban mangrove forest. It's the largest mangrove chunk shared between Bangladesh and India. You name anything, all the issues you see in the coastal zones of in Asian countries, you find them in Shamnagar. It's a highly cyclone-prone area. 2 very large cyclones hit consecutively in the recent past. It has high salinity. Its ecosystem has been completely changed because of the man-made activities. The area has been poldered, or dikes, embankment was built, which eventually cut the water channel system with the river system. There is a conflict between the rice farmers and the shrimp farmers. Shrimp farmers want more saline water inside the embankment, where the rice farmer wants fresh water inside the embankment, and then they push out the saline water as much as possible. So, and there are also challenges. There's a high poverty. This is quite a volatile region, and there's a monsoon is shifting, so rice cultivation is not necessarily very easy. There's only one single crop, which is rice, which is a rain-fed rice, and the winter months is fallow because of the high soil salinity. So name anything is there. So we choose Shamnagar, and we thought that this would be the best ground to test this resilience theory. We implemented about 14 projects. I would mention only 2, have helped the community to excavate a few small canals. And these canals were captured by elites, and they were using it as a private property, though these are a common property resource. And they used to use for fish cultivation or rice cultivation. So we helped the local community to raise their voice and get those canals out of elite capture, and they helped them to dug that canal. This dugout canal became a water reservoir. And having a freshwater resource, it means tremendous impact on the agriculture production. The farmers can do only 1 rice during the monsoon time, and after that, the soil becomes so saline that they cannot produce anything. So that freshwater availability helped them to grow a second crop. So digging the canal was a local knowledge. We only support that. The value addition that we did is we contacted with Wheat Research Institute and asked them to test whether we can grow wheat in winter in Shamnagar. This was unprecedented. People have never seen that wheat can be grown in Shamnagar. So with the local knowledge, we blend the institutional knowledge, which is scientific knowledge of the Wheat Research Institute, and blend with the local knowledge of the local farmer of how water can be used. And the wheat was very successful. And the farmer, two farmer who volunteered themselves to take the risk, has become the champions, and they become now local resource person who are teaching other farmers how to cultivate wheat. So in terms of food security, it was a tremendous improvement. You have 2 crops on your field. And also, how you manage the water in the canal. So the local community, we help local community form an institution, a water governance institution, how to distribute the benefit, how to distribute the water equitably among the farmers. There are a lot of uncertainties what going to happen in the future. There will be changes in the society. There will be changes how we manage ourselves. There will be changes in the ecosystem level. We are already seeing the changes. Ecosystems are changing. Glaciers are melting. Rivers are drying up, and a lot of change is happening, and which induce change in the human society. Conflict is on the rise. Now, these are all good stories in Bangladesh. But now question remains whether you can predict the uncertainties, whether there are events which you cannot perceive right now, which can completely change all of a sudden what we have planned and what you have, your investment. For example, in just a few months ago, more than 600,000 Rohingya marched into Bangladesh because they are fleeing the persecution in their own country, in Myanmar. 600,000 is a big number in 2 weeks' time. Just to put it in perspective, Europe received about 500,000 refugees in 2 years' time. And there was, of course, problem in Europe. 500,000 refugees entered in Europe in 2 years' time, and it created a lot of pressure in European cities. Imagine that this happened in Bangladesh. More than 600,000 people marching into Bangladesh in 2 weeks' time. So government of Bangladesh was very generous in terms of allowing these refugees to settle down, to provide them some safe shelter before they return to their own homeland in Myanmar. And they were given shelter in a forest land. Unfortunately, that forest land is an elephant habitat. So things went on well for some times, and then eventually elephant came. That shelter area is blocking the elephant corridor. Elephant, there is a forest in the western side, elephant roam there. At some point they come across, it's like a funnel, they come towards the corridor and take the corridor, go to Myanmar, and then re-enter Bangladesh through a place called Naikachori. And they come back from Naikachori to Myanmar, take that corridor, and come to that Cox's Bazar area, Kutupalong area where the camp is. Since the camp has blocked the whole area, there's a huge human-elephant conflict going on. And unfortunately, 13 innocent lives has been lost. Elephant is not an enemy here. He's just trying to find a way to go through the camp and taking the routes his generations after generations have taken in the past. And elephant have that memory. They take the same path again and again. So this is I would say, unpredicted event which can jeopardize your all kind of development plan and what your resilience planning. So we now have partnered with UNHCR, and understanding the gravity of the situation, UNHCR has invited IUCN to work with them side by side to bring our conservation science into humanitarian effort. I think this is one of the first partnership between the humanitarian organization, UNHCR, and a conservation organization, which is IUCN. So we are training Rohingya communities and forming emergency response team. The role of the emergency response team is to spot an elephant who's trying to break into the camp and very peacefully ward off that elephant towards the forest. This has been successful to some extent, but this is not a foolproof method. This is only a band-aid on larger environmental issues. Unless we address the root cause, which is we have to give passage to the elephant to cross the camp. That's one. There's a huge pressure on the nearby forest because of the Rohingya refugees, Rohingya community, and now collecting firewoods from the nearby forest. It's completely denuded a large part of the forest. So it's putting pressure and the loss of habitat for elephant. So this is one classic example is if you don't consider your environmental issues, your ecosystem issues, your development process or humanitarian process will gonna suffer. Now, how you bring your resilience theory in a situation, complex situations like that? More than 600,000 refugees in 2 months' time, settling down in an area which is forest land, which was an elephant habitat, and elephants are coming, and there's a conflict, and innocent people are dying. How you want to bring your resilience concept? So I was perplexed. How? I would say yes, in the shorter term, it was unprecedented. It was known that there was an elephant habitat, but that important piece of information was not considered, or it was not possible to consider because of the heat of the moment is that we have to provide food and shelter of this large number of population who has traveled 4 or 5 days and fleeing the atrocities. So in that moment, probably resilience theory approach couldn't be applied, but I still think could be applied if we had the proper planning process, if the right information was available, and the planner has the capacity to understand, unpack those information, and reconsider those piece of information in terms of in their effort. Nevertheless, whatever has happened. But now, how we can improve the situation is that thinking long term in creating a small corridor through this refugee camp to reconnect to habitat, which now been disconnected because of the camp. Doing a long-term research on the elephant movement pattern, and also improving the habitat, which was already under a lot of pressure. So that longer term or larger landscape perspective need to be brought into. It's not only the camp or an elephant. It needs to be seen in a larger landscape where there would be forest, well, there would be camp, well, there would be local host community, the villages, and the development. So all needs to be looked into as a system approach. I would go back to this elephant and refugee crisis. I want to use it as a metaphor for what is happening all around us as a global community. Because of the climate change, there are a lot of uncertainties what's going to happen in the future. The society, and there will be changes in the society. There will be changes how we manage ourselves. There will be changes in the ecosystem level. We are already seeing the changes. Ecosystems are changing, glaciers are melting, rivers are drying up, and a lot of change is happening, and which induce change in the human society. Conflict is on the rise. Living with this uncertainty, living with this constant change is where the resilience thinking can help us to plan a better future, to plan better interventions at the present, so that our future is sustainable and we achieve our sustainable development goal. I think resilience practitioners and the theoreticians has a lot to play of what kind of future we want. Thank you very much.